What do you guys think about if you want a thing to discuss? If we're discussing the Super Bowl here, what about the no the hand to the face wide receiver touchdown? The it was either a cornerback or a safety that got us that got like they had like a little not like a scuffle, but they got like close. But he had his hands on his face mask.
You
So do
mean
you
you
think
Higgins
mean
versus
you
Ramsey.
you mean the Higgins the Higgins versus Ramsey one where
yeah,
Higgins
I
he
mean,
got
pulled
a
the face
touchdown
mask?
out of it.
Yeah,
if the Bengals win that game, that's
that's just
like
not.
unbelievable miss. The fact that the Rams won, it's kind of a non-issue. And if people are upset about whatever holding call at the end, like you could say that it balances out. Like both teams leave that game complaining about the refs, so
Yeah.
it is what it is. It was fair, even if it sucked.
Like what? Okay, so I think I was talking to you, Jack, about the calls, the holding calls at the end, and I was pissed off, but it was like the next day, so I wasn't as mad. And you were like,
Yeah,
you said something, I forgot, like you said something about like how like if they were gonna call it, they should have called it all game or something like that, but they didn't call it all game. They
yeah,
only called it at that one moment.
yeah. I mean, they didn't throw anything early in the game. Um, I mean, an egregious example being that face mask, like when Ramsey literally got thrown by the face mask, like 35 yards into a 75-yard touchdown pass.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know, like it's one of those things where they let them play, quote unquote. They didn't call anything, no matter how like nitpicky for so much of the game. And then right at the end, like yes, he did have two hands on the jersey. Yes, he was pulling back, but if you're not calling anything all game to then call that out of nowhere, like that's when it's a bad call. Like objectively, yeah, sure, he messed with his like route, he pulled him back, but mm,
Yeah.
What about towards the end, like at the very end of the game, that very controversial, which when someone explained it to me and I read it on Reddit, I kind of like got a better grasp of it. But the whole thing where someone said, I think the comment was, people are only upset because it was in the last 2 minutes of the game, and it kind of it did sort of impact it. And then in my own opinion, if I would have to rewatch it, I would have to fast forward it. But if I remember correctly, they would have to also, I think it was either like second down, so they would have to stop that offense on very close to the goal line two more times to win the game. And even though it is the Super Bowl, stopping that offense in the moment was much harder than it. But yeah, that's just what maybe if it was towards the middle of the game, it would have been different. But it was literally in the last two. I think it was after the 2 minute warning. No.
yeah, it was. I mean,
Yeah.
it was what turned into the game-winning drive,
Yeah.
which means that people are gonna point it out more. If it happens any other time in the game, then it is what it is. But it gave them more chances, and then Eli Apple happened, and they got even more chances, and then Eli Apple happened, and they scored. Um,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of stuff that happens, right? Like, I would argue that because they didn't score on that play, I would argue that there is an argument to be made that the Ramsey no call had a bigger impact on the game because that last drive doesn't even happen without that 75-yard touchdown earlier on. Like, it doesn't need to happen. So, of course, it's going to stick out more, but it's not like that single-handedly changed the game more than any other call would have or could have, right?
Yeah.
And plus, it never comes down to one play. Like, there are always so many other places the game could be won or lost.
I
That's
mean,
very true.
49, literally, no joke, no exaggeration. 49 came down to Malcolm Butler. That was one play that ended the game.
Well, okay, yeah. But, like, they go score two more yards like the play before.
Yeah.
um, it's the kind of thing where when it's like a call by a ref, you can never blame that one call by a ref, no matter how much you may want to, because before, like, you could say that the other team won the game. Like Malcolm Butler made a great play that won the game, but it's not like one blown call decides a game. When you should look at your own team before you accuse like the NFL of like ref ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ref ball does exist. I would like to point that ref ball does exist. And just look at any season from the Detroit Lions, and I strongly believe ref ball does exist. Maybe it's not a bias, but I swear to God, it does exist.
I don't think it exists in an intentional way. I think that some games end up that the refs' calls favor one team over another. But
Yeah.
I honestly think that when it comes down to it, over the course of a season, the less disciplined teams get the most penalties. I mean, you look at the Cowboys every year. You watch them play, you see how they're one of the most penalized teams.